Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here with my next Naruto Shippuden episode review. This one's going to be for episode 489, which is Shikamaru's story, A Cloud Drifting in the Silent Dark, Part 1, The State of Affairs. So this is the start of the anime adaptation of this book, which is obviously Naruto Shikamaru's story, which is in fact called A Cloud Drifting in the Silent Dark. Yeah, this is the first time we are getting one of these adaptations when the English book is already out, so I've read it and I can actually compare and contrast as we go through this. And overall, I think it's a pretty solid adaptation. They definitely kind of extended the opening, though most of the scenes that we get here are actually from the book. I like that they actually just kind of full on didn't have like any of the mission happen in this first episode. That this first episode was just set up to get us to the point where the mission was starting. That they didn't just come in and were like, Sai's missing, Land of Silence, Shikamaru, little bit of setup, and then go off. I like that Sai was basically only talked about as being kind of missing, potentially captured by the enemy, influenced by the enemy at the midpoint of the episode. And before that, it was just kind of establishing Shikamaru's role in the village at this point in time. That he's Kakashi's right hand man. He's taken on a lot of stuff. He's kind of changed a lot as a character in the last 2 years, as we see. Like, he's not saying the whole what a drag thing anymore. He maybe doesn't have as much time for the people around him anymore, and he's kind of questioning a few things, and the whole idea of like, what does it mean to be an adult, and has he found someone to protect and stuff like that. It's definitely interesting, but I think you can still see that the core of who he is kind of fundamentally still there. The strategic mind that's shown when he instantly knows the type of team that he needs to go on this mission to potentially get Sai back. With the whole chakra undercover and then an assassination type shinobi, and Kakashi supplies that for him. But just kind of, I suppose, scenes like you think he's maybe kind of going down the wrong path with stuff like not telling Tamari about what's going on and keeping that from her, and potentially not realizing where exactly their relationship is, and then her slapping him and kind of being angry at him. That relationship hasn't been fully, I suppose they haven't fully committed with those two yet to fully saying that they're boyfriend and girlfriend, and so their relationship is kind of at this weird point where Shikamaru is kind of like, because we don't spend as much time together because we represent both of our villages, we're not necessarily all that together and stuff like that. So he's kind of saying some of the wrong things, and when he says like, oh, I haven't kind of really figured out who I need to protect, and then immediately Kurenai shows up with Mirai, and it's kind of like, that's who you need to protect. And when he said earlier to Ino and Choji that you have someone to train, I don't really, but then like you remember that like he basically pledged that he was going to train Mirai when she's old enough. So just remembering that, and I think especially him meeting with Naruto just before he left the village was a very important scene for him to get, just to kind of highlight this idea of like, he wants to keep Naruto as he is, that fundamentally you don't want to change Naruto from the type of character he is, that Shikamaru wants to be the person who learns from helping Kakashi, so he is skilled enough to help Naruto to still be able to be the person that he is once he does become Hokage, but Shikamaru can handle some of the other stuff. The book kind of goes into a little bit more depth on kind of his thoughts on this, and that like the book kind of establishes this idea that like he always sees like Naruto as this beacon of light, and because of that, the enemies that sometimes come up that are just completely engulfed in shadow, Naruto's light doesn't necessarily instantly convert them just by talking back to the good side. So Shikamaru is kind of pledging like he's going to be there to help Naruto remain that beacon of light, even against the people who won't necessarily listen to him or don't agree with his ideals. So the idea being that like they're keeping this kind of more darker assassination style mission out of kind of away from Naruto, and Shikamaru is committing that it's kind of this kind of more understanding version of like kind of Danzo's role in the village, of like this kind of the shadow, the darkness of the Leaf Village, but like it's just this idea that Naruto never really wants Shikamaru doesn't want Naruto to kind of become affected overly so by maybe some of the darkness that happens by leading a ninja village. So I kind of liked how the novel did that. They obviously can still do that here, but I just, in general, with this episode, really appreciated how they handled Shikamaru. I like that you get this idea that he wakes up in the middle of the night and he had kind of a dream about the failure during the Sasuke retrieval mission, his first mission leading, and that it still is a slight issue for him, that he still remembers that and the failure of that, and it's going on to this difficult mission. How exactly is that going to go? So I like that. And then, like, going back to the Naruto scene, that just, he's kind of like, no, Naruto, like, this is the most important time for you right now. Accept every mission, do it. Don't just kind of rely on the fact that you're the hero from the war. Work to the point where, like, the village can only ever say, when it comes time to get a new Hokage, that it has to be Naruto. Because of what he did in the war, but because of the amount of missions he did afterwards. It can be no one else. And kind of Shikamaru wants him to work to get to that point, just like Shikamaru is working to help Naruto once Naruto's in that position. I did really like that. As for the main plot going forward, obviously we're setting up this idea of the Land of Silence, and there's a lot of ninjas going missing in the aftermath of the war, and it seems like they're all being drawn towards the Land of Silence, and then they finally hear back from Sai, who had infiltrated the Land of Silence, and they find out from him that it's this, enemy character. Let me just check actually with the book. Did they give him the same name? Yeah, Gengo. Yeah, the leader of the Land of Silence. They keep the same name from the book. He's obviously the leader, and Sai seems to either full on agree with this villain, or has been somewhat brainwashed into thinking that there's something to this villain and it's not just an enemy that the Leaf Village needs to face, that they've kind of lost sight to the Land of Silence and what's going to happen from there. So I like that Sai is kind of an aspect of this arc. And then, some of the other scenes, as I said, were nice. The Kurenai Mirai scene, her calling Shikamaru her kind of big brother in a way. Them having a babysitter, Kurenai having a babysitter, and kind of just establishing that because there's so much peace right now in the shinobi world, that just normal people are kind of coming to live in the ninja villages, and they kind of have to adapt to what, like, ninja positions are, like what the Hokage means, what the right hand of the Hokage is, and all this sort of stuff. So I like that. And then during the other meeting, the idea that ninja requests are going down and down and down, and so, like, what does it mean for shinobis going forward? And that, like, is it just something where we just have to accept that as the years go on, we will no longer need shinobi, or what? Like, that's ultimately part of the kind of thematic kind of core of what this book is about, and what the villain actually talks about once we get into that stuff. The idea of, like, what is the role of shinobi in an era where it's primarily peace. In that there's such a big power structure now with the ninja villages because of all the wars. But now that there is no war and there's very little conflict, what do all of these people do if there's not enough jobs to go around and stuff like that? That's the kind of core of kind of what we're getting at here. And you get the scene where Shikamaru meets Choji and Ino at the restaurant, and they kind of just, I like the scene where Choji and Ino talk about, that they have their own teams that they're training, and that there's someone who doesn't get it on Ino's team, and then there's someone on Choji's team who reminds him of himself. Just that, like, all of these characters are kind of growing up now. They have these kind of goals. Like in Sakura's book, she's obviously organizing these kind of mental institution kind of type things to help children who are dealing with the aftermath of the war, and she's trying to help children psychologically. You get that from the Sakura book, which we don't know if it's going to be ever animated. But just stuff like that all the characters are kind of doing all of this stuff, and this book is obviously about what exactly Shikamaru's up to, and you can see that he's kind of taking on too much stuff, in that he's an important part of the Shinobi Alliance, he's an important part of the Leaf Village with the Hokage, and now he's taking on missions himself, and all this sort of stuff, as well as like more kind of common things like, having a game of shogi against the Tsuchikage. Just like he's taking on a lot of work, and you kind of wonder, like, is that taking a toll on him? Has he been training as much as he needs? Is he as skilled as he necessarily was before? There's a lot of questions, and, like, the fact that he has slightly changed as a character, what's going to be the arc for him within this story. And I think ultimately, based on the book, if this is going to be an accurate depiction, it's going to be very interesting going forward in that, one, obviously we're getting just a kind of straight up shinobi kind of infiltration assassination mission, which is very interesting. I think that's what a lot of people are liking about this arc where they're covering the novels, in that they are just these unique, interesting missions where, like, Sasuke's was like an investigation. This is more of a kind of standard shinobi mission, which within Naruto, like, we never really got too many of, because there were a lot of the times it was just kind of focused on getting fights out and stuff like that. But yeah, that's about it. I like Kakashi and Shikamaru's relationship, that because they've been working together for a while now, I like that they've kind of become friends, and like Kakashi's like, no, just call me Kakashi, you don't need to be so formal with me, and that he kind of understands him to the point where the implication is that Shikamaru tells Kakashi about Tamari slapping him and stuff like that, and obviously the implications of where their relationship is going, it's going to be interesting that he still is a bit clueless about their relationship, so Shikamaru doesn't understand the romance stuff just yet. But yeah, I think I'm going to end the video there. This episode was primarily set up, but it was good setup. Like, we got the introduction of Ro and Soku, which are, you know, interesting enough characters. I wouldn't say they're heavily developed or anything like that, but they're interesting. Unique powers of like chakra manipulation, but more like how you see someone's chakra as opposed to actually changing someone's chakra. And then Soku having the power of a chakra needle that she can kind of hone in on stuff as like the perfect assassination technique. It is the perfect team for Shikamaru, and the main thing being their kind of speech patterns, in that Ro speaks quite complicated and very technical, and then Soku speaks like a teenager, like a modern teenager with likes and stuff like that included a lot. So they seem fun, but you know, we still need to know them a bit better as characters. But yeah, that's basically been the review. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts were on the episode and this review. Link in the description to watch the episode if you haven't seen it yet, as well as my Twitter and Tumblr if you want to follow me on social media, and also my Patreon campaign and PayPal donation link if you want to help support my channel so I can make better videos. But yeah, that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.